The Archive's secret. The red dust of Mars swirled around Dr. Sarah Chen's boots as she stood before the towering structure that had emerged from beneath the planet's surface just 3 days ago. Its obsidian walls seemed to drink in the sunlight, making it appear as a void cut into reality itself. 20 years of archaeological work on Mars, and nothing had prepared her for this discovery. Energy readings are still climbing, reported Dr. Amit Patel through her comm system. Whatever power source they used, it's still active after. Well, we don't even know how long it's been here. Sarah approached the seamless wall, her heart pounding against her ribs. The structure had risen in response to a specific frequency they'd discovered encoded in ancient petroglyphs across Earth. No one had expected it to actually work. Now, representatives from the Galactic Confederation were on their way, demanding explanations that humanity didn't have. "They're here." Amit's voice crackled again. 3 Confederation ships just dropped out of FTL. The Archon himself is aboard. Sarah squared her shoulders. Humanity had only joined the galactic community 5 years ago, still seen as primitive newcomers by most species. The Archon, leader of the Confederation's Science Council, rarely concerned himself with archaeological finds. But this was different. The energy signature matched nothing in their vast databases. The ships descended like silver arrows through the rusty Martian sky. Sarah watched as the delegation emerged, the towering crystalline form of the Archon flanked by his advisors. The Archon's faceted head caught the sunlight, sending rainbow refractions across the landscape. "Dr. Chen," the Archon's translated voice hummed in her earpiece, "explain why you activated an unknown alien artifact without Confederation oversight." Before Sarah could respond, a deep resonance emanated from the black structure. Lines of light, like liquid gold, began to trace patterns across its surface. The patterns formed into symbols, not alien script, but ancient human languages. Sanskrit, Sumerian, Proto-Indo-European. "That's impossible," whispered one of the Confederation scientists, their translator struggling with their tone of shock. The golden lines converged at what appeared to be an entrance, and a voice spoke, not through their comms, but directly into their minds. It spoke in every language simultaneously, yet was perfectly comprehensible. Identity confirmed. Human presence detected. Initiating Archive Awakening Protocol. The entrance dilated open, revealing a corridor that seemed to bend the laws of space itself. The Archon's crystalline form vibrated with what Sarah recognized as agitation. "Dr. Chen, what is the meaning of this? These symbols are from your world, yet this technology is beyond anything humanity possesses." Sarah felt a certainty she couldn't explain, an ancient memory stirring in her genes. "Because we built it, Archon. Not modern humanity, but our ancestors, the ones who chose to forget." Inside the archive, holographic displays sprang to life, showing images that defied comprehension. Earth, but not as they knew it. A world of impossible cities and technologies that put even Confederation achievements to shame. Ships that dwarfed their modern vessels, traveling between stars as easily as stepping between rooms. "Impossible," the Archon declared, but his voice wavered. "Humanity has only achieved spaceflight in the last century. Your species was primitive when mine had already mapped 1,000 stars." A new hologram materialized, a recording of humans, dressed in clothing that seemed both ancient and futuristic, standing in a grand chamber. Their faces were solemn as one spoke. "To those who find this archive, know that humanity once spanned the stars. We seeded worlds, shepherded young species, and safeguarded the galaxy. But we saw the path our power was leading us down. Rather than become tyrants, we chose to start anew. We scattered archives throughout the galaxy, to be found only when humanity had grown wise enough to handle their contents." Sarah watched the Confederation delegates' reactions range from disbelief to awe to fear. The implications were staggering. Every theory about human history, about their place in the galaxy, was being rewritten before their eyes. "There will be more archives awakening," Sarah said, her voice steady despite the weight of the revelation. This is just the beginning. The Archon moved closer to one of the displays, his crystalline form refracting the golden light. If what you say is true, Dr. Chen, the power dynamics of the entire Confederation will shift. Some will see this as a threat. We don't want power, Sarah replied, studying a holographic map showing thousands of archive locations across the galaxy. Our ancestors gave it up for a reason. What we want is understanding. A new hologram materialized, showing solar systems Sarah had never seen before. But something about them felt familiar, like places she had visited in half-remembered dreams. The recording continued. We left markers in your genetic code, dormant knowledge that would awaken when you were ready. The dreams of the stars that have haunted your species. They were memories, waiting to be remembered. Amit's voice came through her calm, tense with excitement. Sarah, you need to see this. The archive is transmitting data to every research facility on Earth. Star charts, physics theorems, biological data. It's like they're returning our entire scientific legacy. The Archon's advisors huddled together, speaking in rapid, untranslated whispers. Sarah could sense their unease. Humanity had just jumped from being the galaxy's newest children to its oldest teachers. The political ramifications would be enormous. Your ancestors, the Archon said finally, why did they choose to begin again? Such knowledge, such power, to willingly forget it all. Sarah walked to another display, showing scenes of the ancient human civilization. Their cities were works of art, their ships like silver birds among the stars. But there was something else in the images, a weariness, a weight that came with too much power held too long. They understood something we're still learning, she replied. Power isn't the purpose. Growth is. They gave us the chance to evolve naturally, to learn our own lessons, to make our own mistakes and achievements. They wanted us to earn our way back to the stars. A soft chime echoed through the archive, and new data streams appeared. Reports were coming in from across Earth. People experiencing vivid memories that weren't their own. Scientists making breakthrough discoveries as dormant knowledge awakened in their minds. We should establish a joint research team, the Archon said, his tone shifting from skepticism to cautious excitement. If there are more archives awakening, we need to be prepared. The galaxy is about to change, Dr. Chen. Sarah nodded, but her attention was drawn to a final message playing across the archive's walls. It was written in the oldest human language ever discovered, but somehow she could read it perfectly. To our children, we gave you time to grow, to learn, to become who you were meant to be. Now it's time to remember who you were, and choose who you will become. The galaxy needs its guardians again, but this time, let wisdom guide your power. As the sun set over Mars, casting long shadows across the red desert, Sarah realized that humanity's journey wasn't just beginning. It was coming full circle. They had been given a second chance, a fresh start, and now they had to prove they deserved it. The real work was just beginning. Legacy of the Stars. The Valerian warship cast a long shadow over the archaeological site on Proxima. Its crystalline hull, purple-black, and shaped like a twisted spire, seemed designed to intimidate. Ambassador Kane watched it through the dome's transparent ceiling, trying to keep his expression neutral as High Commander Vextal stalked around the excavation site. Remarkable, the Valerian commander hissed, mandibles clicking. In 3 months, you humans have claimed to find evidence of your ancient civilization on 12 worlds, all conveniently within Valerian space. Kane shared a glance with Dr. Sarah Chen, who stood beside a pillar covered in the same golden scripts they'd found on Mars. Her fingers traced the symbols absently, a habit she'd developed since the first archive had awakened. We didn't choose these locations, Commander, Sarah replied calmly. We're following the archive's map. The fact that many sites are in Valerian space suggests your people may have built your empire over the remnants of ours. Vextal's carapace bristled, iridescent scales flaring in what Kane recognized as a warning display. The Valerian Empire had dominated this sector for millennia. their technological superiority unchallenged until now. The Senate grows tired of these disruptions, Vextal said. Your archaeological teams demand access to our most secure systems, citing ancient claims that cannot be verified. The Confederation may indulge your fantasies, but the Empire— A low hum interrupted him. The pillar under Sarah's hand had begun to glow, lines of light spreading across its surface like flowing water. Similar reactions rippled across the dig site as other artifacts awakened. Biorecognition confirmed. A voice announced in the same multi-language broadcast they'd heard on Mars, initiating synchronization with Mars Archive. Holographic displays burst to life around them, showing star maps and technical diagrams that made Vextal's mandibles clack in surprise. But it was the next image that silenced everyone, a recording of ancient humans terraforming a familiar purple-black crystalline world. That's the Valerian homeworld, Vextal whispered, his translator struggling with his shocked tone. The recording showed humans seeding the planet with engineered organisms, the ancestors of the Valerian species. They had not just explored the galaxy, they had helped shape its very life. Commander, Sarah said gently, your people weren't conquered by us. In a way, you're our children. Vextal's political bluster evaporated, replaced by something Kane hadn't seen in a Valerian before: existential uncertainty. The commander stared at the images of his world's creation, his species' birth, with all four eyes wide. The Senate must be informed, he finally managed. This changes everything. But before he could continue, alarms blared through the complex. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, head of the technical team, rushed in, her tablet displaying multiple alert warnings. Something's wrong, she announced. The activation sequence triggered a cascade. Archives are awakening across the sector, but they're not just revealing information. They're activating something. Screens around the chamber filled with data streams, showing archive sites lighting up across hundreds of worlds. Each activation seemed to be part of a larger pattern, a vast network coming back online after eons of sleep. It's a defense grid, Sarah realized, reading the streams of ancient data with an intuition that still surprised her. The archives weren't just libraries. They were part of a galaxy-wide protection system. Vextal moved closer to the displays, his earlier hostility forgotten in the face of this revelation. Protection against what? As if in answer, a new hologram appeared, a recording of the ancient humans looking out at something beyond the galaxy's edge, their expressions grave. They're coming, the recording said. We couldn't stop them then. We could only prepare. Now the responsibility falls to you, all of you, our children among the stars. The image shifted to show something massive moving between galaxies, something that devoured light itself. The ancient humans had seen it coming, had spent millennia preparing for its arrival. Their decision to start over hadn't just been about preventing their own corruption. They had been playing a longer game. Commander, Kane said, his diplomatic training strained by the weight of the moment. I believe we need to reconsider the relationship between Earth and the Empire. Whatever's coming, we'll need to face it together. Vextal's scales shifted to a deep blue, a color of decision among his people. Agreed. The Senate must be convinced. Dr. Chen, gather what you need. You'll present this evidence personally. Sarah nodded, but her attention was on new data streaming across the screens. More archives were awakening, each revealing pieces of humanity's past and the galaxy's future. The legacy of the stars was being reclaimed, but it came with a burden none of them had expected. They knew, she whispered. They knew we'd need every species, every civilization working together. That's why they seeded so many worlds, guided so many evolutionary paths. They were building an army, but not for conquest. The hologram showed one final image, the galaxy alight with activated archives, a shield of golden energy connecting them all. Humanity's greatest achievement hadn't been building an empire. It had been creating a family among the stars. Now that family needed to remember how to stand together. The Awakening Protocol. The Valerian Senate chamber was nothing like its human counterparts. Instead of rows of seats, crystalline platforms floated at different heights, arranged in complex geometric patterns that reflected the social hierarchies of the empire. Sarah Chen stood at the center of it all, surrounded by the ethereal glow of 1,000 bioluminescent Valerian nobles. "The defense grid is activating faster than we anticipated," she explained, gesturing to the holographic display showing the galaxy map. Golden points of light marked each awakened archive, forming an intricate web across space. "We've confirmed activations in 47 systems in the past week alone." High Senator Zixera descended from her elevated platform, her crystalline form catching the light. "And you still cannot control these activations. These are supposedly your ancestors' systems." "They're not meant to be controlled," Sarah replied. "The Awakening Protocol is automated, triggered by something our ancestors detected. We're trying to understand." The chamber's lighting suddenly shifted to deep red. A junior senator burst in, their scales flickering with urgency. "The hegemony has breached the outer defense line. 3 colony worlds have gone dark." The chamber erupted in chaos. The Scaraxian hegemony, a militant species from the galaxy's outer rim, had been pushing against Valerian borders for centuries. But they had never penetrated this deep into defended space. "Show me," Sarah demanded. The holographic display shifted, revealing a section of the outer rim. 3 worlds that should have been protected by Valerian defense fleets were now shrouded in darkness. But something else caught her attention. The archives nearest to the breach were pulsing with increased energy. They were responding to the threat. "Ambassador Kane," she called through her neural link. "Are you seeing this?" "We're tracking it," Kane's voice responded. "The archive on New Terra just activated a new protocol." "It's Sarah. You need to see this." The chamber's display suddenly merged with the feed from New Terra. A massive structure was rising from beneath the colony world's surface, a spire of the same black material as the archives. But this was different. This was a weapon. "By the first light," Zixera whispered, using a Valerian phrase Sarah's translator struggled with. "What else did your ancestors hide beneath our worlds?" Before Sarah could respond, a new presence filled the chamber. The holographic form of Admiral Chen materialized. No relation to Sarah, but the commander of Earth's modest defense fleet. "Dr. Chen, senators," the Admiral's voice was grave. "The hegemony ships, they're not what they appear to be. We're detecting energy signatures that match the ancient warnings. The things our ancestors feared. They're using the hegemony as puppets." The implications hit Sarah like a physical blow. The enemy hadn't just arrived. They'd been infiltrating the galaxy for centuries, using other species as unwitting tools. The archives, she realized, they're not just a defense network. They're a quarantine system. Our ancestors knew the enemy could corrupt and control other species. These weapons aren't designed to destroy ships. They're designed to sever the connection between the puppets and their masters. The chamber fell silent as the truth sank in. Humanity hadn't abandoned their power out of fear of corruption. They had hidden it in plain sight, scattered across 1,000,000 worlds, waiting for the moment it would be needed most. "The Awakening Protocol isn't just activating weapons," Sarah continued, watching as more archives lit up across the galaxy. "It's restoring everything our ancestors left behind. But it needs all of us, humans, Valerians, every species they helped create. We each carry a piece of their legacy in our very DNA." As if to confirm her words, the chamber's crystals began to resonate with a familiar frequency. The same signal they'd first detected on Mars, but now it was coming from the Valerians themselves. "Your bodies," Sarah explained to the astonished senators. "Your crystalline forms. They were engineered to be living quantum processors. The Scaraxians' organic technology, the Archons' species' telepathic abilities. Every species our ancestors influenced was given tools we'd need for this fight." Zixera's form shifted, her crystals aligning with the chamber's resonance. "Then we will use them." The Senate hereby grants full access to all activated sites within Imperial space. Our fleets are at your disposal, Dr. Chen. But Sarah was already focused on new data streaming in from other archives. The enemy was moving faster now, as if they knew they'd been discovered. The real war was about to begin, and they were still piecing together the weapons they'd need to fight it. Admiral, she called, gather every xenorchaeologist, particle physicist, and quantum engineer you can find. And contact the Archon. We're going to need the full resources of the Confederation. The ancient humans had left them a galaxy full of hidden treasures and forgotten powers. Now they just had to remember how to use them before it was too late. Children of Terra. The quantum lab aboard the Confederation science vessel, Discovery, hummed with energy as representatives from 12 species crowded around the central holotable. Dr. Sarah Chen stood with Ambassador Kane, watching as the Archon's crystalline form interfaced directly with the ship's systems. The genetic markers are undeniable, the Archon announced, his consciousness partly merged with the ship's quantum processors. Every species in this room carries traces of human engineering. We are all, in some way, children of Terra. The Scarexian representative, Admiral Lilara, chittered in disbelief. Her people's warships were still engaged in combat with their corrupted brethren at the galaxy's edge. How could we not have known? Our historical records go back millennia. Because they designed us to forget, Sarah explained, pulling up genetic data streams. Just as they made themselves forget. The knowledge was hidden in our DNA, waiting to be activated by the archives. The holotable displayed a complex web of evolutionary paths, showing how ancient humans had guided the development of countless species. The Valerians' crystalline biology made them living quantum computers. The Scarexians' adaptive immune systems could resist almost any form of corruption. Each race had been given specific traits that, when combined, formed a complex defense against the approaching threat. They created a biological algorithm, Dr. Paddle said from his workstation, wonder in his voice, spread across multiple species, multiple worlds. We're all parts of a single system. A sudden alert cut through the discussion. Admiral Chen's hologram appeared, her expression grim. The enemy has breached another sector, but this time we got readings on their true form. Displaying now. The holotable shifted to show something that defied conventional physics. Dark matter entities, existing partially in higher dimensions, using corrupted organic matter as anchors in normal space. The sight of them caused primitive fear responses in everyone present, another engineered trait, Sarah realized. Their ancestors had made sure they would recognize the threat on an instinctive level. The hegemony ships aren't just puppets, Sarah said, studying the data. They're being transformed. The enemy is trying to create a bridge between dimensions, using organic matter as a foundation. Which is why they can't corrupt us as easily, Vextal added, his crystalline form resonating with new understanding. Our bodies, our very atoms, were engineered to resist dimensional manipulation. The Archon's consciousness expanded through the ship's systems, accessing multiple archives simultaneously. There's more. The defense grid. It's not just a weapon. It's a dimensional barrier, but it needs all of us to work. Each species holds a piece of the key. Sarah watched as new data poured in from archives across the galaxy. The ancient humans hadn't just been preparing defenses, they had been cultivating an army. But not one of soldiers and ships, one of evolved species, each developed to play a specific role in the coming battle. That's why they stepped away. She breathed, the truth finally becoming clear. They couldn't fight this enemy alone, no matter how advanced they were. They needed to create something new. Many species, many approaches, many ways of thinking and fighting. A genetic democracy, Ambassador Kane mused. Instead of ruling the galaxy, they chose to fill it with children who could grow into their own strength. A new alert flashed across the holotable. More archives were activating, but these were different. Hidden beneath the surfaces of uninhabited worlds were vast complexes, not weapons or libraries, but something else entirely. Evolutionary acceleration chambers, the Archon announced, his tone carrying both awe and concern. Millions of them. Species that haven't even achieved sentience yet, already carrying engineered traits we'll need. They were playing an even longer game than we thought. Sarah said, "These chambers aren't just from the past. They're for the future. More children of Terra, still waiting to be born." Admiral Lee Lura's compound eyes shifted, reflecting the holographic displays. "Then we protect them. Until they're ready. As your ancestors protected us." Agreement rippled through the assembled representatives. Ancient rivalries and political tensions faded in the face of this revelation. They were no longer just allies of convenience. They were family, shaped by the same creators, faced with the same threat. "The enemy breached our worlds thinking to find easy prey," Vextel declared, his crystalline form pulsing with determination. "Instead, they found the children of Terra, awakening to our true purpose." Sarah nodded, but her attention was on new data streaming in from the outer rim. The enemy was changing tactics, as if they too had just realized what they were truly facing. The real test of humanity's ancient plan was about to begin. "We are what they made us," she said, looking at the assembled species. "Each unique, each essential. But we'll be more than they imagined. We have to be." The Discovery's quantum drives hummed as it prepared to jump to the front lines. Across the galaxy, more archives were awakening, more pieces of the ancient plan coming to light. The children of Terra were remembering their legacy, and the stars themselves seemed to hold their breath, waiting to see what they would become. Guardians return. The dimensional barrier rippled like a soap bubble stretched across the stars. Sarah Chen watched from the Discovery's quantum observatory as the combined fleets of 12 species held position along its edge. Behind them, 10,000 archives pulsed in perfect synchronization, their golden energy weaving through space itself. "The enemy is probing for weaknesses," Admiral Chen reported, her hologram flickering as reality distorted around them. "They've never encountered resistance like this before." "No," the Archon corrected, his crystalline form resonating with the archive network. "They have. They encountered our creators, and that's why they retreated for so long. They were waiting for us to forget." The dark matter entities pressed against the barrier, their true forms visible only through specialized sensors the archives had taught them to build. They were vast, geometric shapes that hurt the mind to look at, existing in dimensions that organic life was never meant to perceive. "All species report ready," Ambassador Kane announced from his station. "The Valerian quantum matrices are aligned. Scarexian bioships are in position. Even the dormant evolution chambers are responding to the network." Sarah nodded, feeling the weight of millions of years of planning coming to fruition. "Our ancestors couldn't beat them with technology alone. That's why they created us. Different species approaching the same problem from different angles. We're not just their children. We're their solution." A sudden surge of energy rippled through the barrier. The enemy had found what they thought was a weak point, a section of space where several species' territories overlapped, creating interference in the defense grid. "They're making their move." Admiral Lara chittered, her Scarexian battle form already adapting to the dimensional stress. "All ships prepare for." But the enemy's attack never came. Instead, the overlapping territories created something unexpected. The different species' unique traits, their engineered abilities, began to resonate together. The archives responded, channeling power through the connected networks of crystalline bodies, adaptive immune systems, and quantum-enabled minds. "It's a harmony," the Archon breathed, understanding flooding through the network. "Each species creates a different note in a dimensional symphony. Together we create something they can't comprehend." Sarah finished. "Pure cooperation across multiple species, multiple ways of thinking. It's the one thing their hive mind can't counter." The barrier wasn't just holding, it was growing stronger. Each species contributed something unique. Valerian quantum processing, Scaraxian adaptation, human innovation, and countless other traits engineered into the galaxy's children. The archives amplified their combined potential, turning their diversity into a weapon the enemy had never faced. All archives, full power, Sarah commanded. Every species, every ability, working in concert. Show them what the children of Terra can do. The golden energy web blazed like a new sun. Where before there had been 12 separate species trying to work together, now there was harmony, a symphony of life and evolution that transcended individual biology. The enemy recoiled, their dark matter forms disrupted by something they couldn't consume or corrupt. "They're retreating," Admiral Chen reported, wonder in her voice. "All across the dimensional barrier. Whatever we're doing, it's working." But Sarah's attention was on new data streaming from the archives. No, not retreating. Look, the enemy's true form was becoming clear. They weren't invaders from another galaxy. They were refugees, fleeing something even they feared. The archives weren't just showing how to fight them. They were showing how to communicate. Our ancestors, Sarah realized, they didn't just prepare us to fight. They prepared us to solve the problem they couldn't. Not through war, but through understanding. The Archean's consciousness expanded through the network, touching the enemy's dimensional frequencies. They're running from the death of their universe. They've been consuming galaxies, trying to build a bridge to ours, to escape. Then we show them another way, Sarah said. The archives were already adapting, the defense grid transforming into something new. Our ancestors gave us everything we needed, not just to fight, but to build. Together, we can create stable dimensional passages. Show them they don't have to destroy to survive. The assembled fleet watched in awe as the barrier between dimensions transformed. The enemy's desperate assault became first communication, then cooperation. The children of Terra had done what their ancestors hoped, found a solution that could only come from multiple species working in true harmony. Hours later, Sarah stood in the Discovery's observation deck, watching the first diplomatic exchange between dimensions. Ambassador Kane joined her, his expression thoughtful. "You know what this means," he said. "We're not just guardians of our galaxy anymore. We're guardians of multiple realities." Sarah smiled, thinking of the ancient humans who had planned so carefully, who had sacrificed their own civilization to create something greater. "That's what family does," she said. "It grows, it adapts, it builds bridges." Across the galaxy, the archives continued to pulse with golden light. But now, they were more than weapons or libraries. They were beacons, calling to other species, other dimensions, offering hope instead of conquest. The children of Terra had become what their ancestors dreamed they could be, not conquerors, not victims, but bridges between worlds. And in the vast network of archives, new information was appearing. Knowledge not just of defense, but of creation. The real legacy of ancient humanity wasn't the power they wielded, but the family they had created among the stars. A family that would continue to grow, to evolve, to reach across dimensions, and show that cooperation was stronger than conquest. The Guardians had returned, not as warriors, but as builders of bridges between worlds.